Welcome back to Car-Pinionated, our weekly show on cars, the car industry, and driving in general. I'm Doug Stewart, and these are my friends, Glenn Packman and Jeff Buckholz. Uh, Glenn is from beautiful Fairfield County, where he's a real estate appraiser and a car enthusiast and a improv comedian. And Jeff Buckholz is from Chicago, and he is a writer and editor at WBBM and covers Chicago politics from City Hall in Chicago. Um, Gentlemen, welcome. You might remember a while back, loyal viewers might remember that we spent some time telling Nissan what it should do. And as Jeff just reminded us before we started recording, uh, we were right. One of us said that they should move the Z car to Infinity, and that's kind of what they're doing. So anyway, we're going to take our victory lap. Jeff, there's a bunch of stuff here, but Jeff, why don't you talk to us a little bit about what is going on at Nissan?
So, and you're going to have to fill in some gaps here, but I think the high points for the American audience is this. Um, First of all, the Xterra is coming back. So let's
Mhm.
all talk about how awesome that is. The
Mhm.
Nissan Xterra was styled to be kind of the Swiss Army knife of two-row SUVs. And the first one was based on the Frontier pickup. The second was also a Frontier-based vehicle and very broadly took from the last body-on-frame Pathfinder. It was a great piece of kit. They're extremely desirable now if you can find one that the transmission has not crapped the bed.
Mhm.
And they're still incredibly useful. And there hasn't been one in a while. And of course, since then, the Pathfinder has become a body-on-frame vehicle, or not a sorry, a unibody vehicle. And so now the word that the Xterra will return with the it's sort of resembling once again the Frontier pickup, which traces its own lineage back to the Frontier pickup of 2005. I mean, that's the platform has been around that long, but
Mhm.
if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
Is outstanding news. And it's going to be, given the way the Frontier looks, they're going to have to work real hard if they want to mess this up. It has
Yeah.
just enough D21 hard body design cues in it. And indeed, there is a hard body design package that you can get on the Frontier with the awesome alloys on it and that kind of thing. I hope it looks like the Gen 1 Pathfinders from back in the day, because that's just bulletproof. That's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
The other big thing, and we will get a bit of this, is Nissan announced the return of the Skyline sedan, which is the flagship heart of the market car for Nissan, and one that is a storied name in the company's history in Japan. It's been kind of the style leader for Nissan. It was the car that begat the now infamous GTR 32, 33, and 34. The R32 uh, was called, I think, first called Godzilla by the editor of an Australian car magazine back in the early 90s. And it was 286 horsepower, all-wheel drive, probably underrated for horsepower because Japan had sort of voluntary limits on how big a car's engine could be. But it was all singing and all dancing, and it was the most amazing car at the time. And so the Skyline eventually did come here as the Infiniti G series. And so it will again. It will once again share components and platforms with the new Z car.
Mhm.
And it will, like the Z car, we talked about this in the last episode, come with a manual transmission. And no, Nissan says we probably won't sell that many cars with manual transmissions, but people will know it's there. And so the company has figured out that the way to success is to turn Infiniti into more of a performance-oriented brand.
Right.
And Nissan very smartly is looking back at its own heritage, as it should, and thinking about the cars that really resonated with American audiences.
Mhm.
The Z car is one, the original Pathfinder and the Xterra are others.
Mhm.
Um, all we need is a new 510. And I think we might have something. And it wasn't that long ago that Nissan showed some very 510 looking concepts from a few years ago
Yeah,
that I
yeah.
thought looked handsome as heck, and I hoped like heck they would build them, and they ended up not. But look, if BMW can go back to the Neue Klasse from the 60s for the inspiration for its new sort of 3 Series sedan, why not, man? I mean, it. I'm still not sold on some of the sort of newer design language. I'm not a huge fan of the Murano, um,
No,
though.
never have been.
Yeah.
I think the Kicks is a pretty sharp little car, and I
Hmm.
also think it's kind of a lot of car for the money.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
and also every time I see one, I think of that Foster the People song, "Pumped Up Kicks," which is a great song from about 10 years ago.
Right.
No, I mean I think it's. And I'm sure I've forgotten some things, but I think those are kind of the headlines of sort of Nissan. Boy, those dealers, man, those dealers need help. They need
Yeah,
some new product.
Yeah.
They need
Yep.
to do something to sell cars besides throw money on the hood. And this
yeah,
might just do it.
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely.
I think I think that I think we forget how much of a game changer the hard body pickups were at
Dude.
that time. And it was in the same time period as the Taurus. And
Mhm.
as much of a game changer the Taurus was, those hard body pickup trucks, like all of a sudden they were everywhere and
Everywhere.
and a great design,
Mhm.
just it felt like it was a more solid vehicle. I don't know, it's all advertising, I'm sure, but that hard body stuff with the 3 slots in the front, which their design language for the Xterra is bringing back. Um, Glenn, what are you thinking about Nissan?
Um, uh, from a visual standpoint, there's almost nothing that they're showing right now that I'm not interested in seeing more of. It's catching they're catching my attention. And that's saying a lot for Nissan. You know, they've been kind of in the doldrums for years. So I feel like this is just a sudden burst of energy for them. I really like the refreshed Rogue or the new generation, whichever
Mhm.
one it is.
Mhm.
It's taking something that I each generation of the Rogue has been getting better and better, I think. The original one looked like a sort of a jelly bean on wheels, and I
Mhm.
was never a fan. And then they've been progressively getting better. Um, they're coming out with a Juke EV, and the prototypes of it
For
are
Europe? Yeah.
really sharp. And this is saying a lot because I hated the old Juke. Not that it wasn't a great idea. It was a tremendous idea. Let's build a little four-door that's also an SUV and sits up high, but it's also quick and it's easy to park, and it gets around town, and so many things were right about the car, and then the packaging was just it was kind of laughable. I'm sorry. It was just, and with no offense to Juke drivers out there, it was something that you either loved or hated, and most people hated. The new one, I have no such reservations about at all. So it's taking that good idea and putting it into a better envelope, and that's smart. Um, I would love to see them uh, do what Infinity just not Infinity, what Genesis, forgive me, just did with their G90, and let's do a wagon version of let's take the
Oh,
Ultima, let's take the Maxima and make a wagon out
oh
of
yeah.
it, you know.
It's yeah. I
Yeah,
miss
that would be
Maximas.
fun. That would be
I
fun.
miss
So,
Maximas.
Boy,
but at
talk
least,
about, yeah, you know what? And you think about, I'm sorry, Glenn.
no, sure.
We're talking about, we're talking about the sort of recalling the impact of the D21 hardbody truck. Remember the impact of the four-door sports car. The
Absolutely.
Maximas
Absolutely.
from the late 80s and early 90s
Yep.
were sharp as hell. They
We
were so good.
we talked
Yeah.
about this in your absence. My dad had a pearl white four-door Maxima, the one that came with the little branding on the window that
A
said
40SC.
Ford
Yeah.
DSC, right?
Those were
It had
so
burgundy
good.
interior, and man, the car was silky smooth.
Hmm.
It growled like a happy
Hmm.
leopard that had just, guzzled down a huge bunch of steaks at a kill. And it was a terrific car. And
Hmm.
can we get back to some of that DNA too? So,
Yeah.
um, in their lineup, the only thing that seems like a huge mistake is there's another. It looks like they want to bring back some sort of version of the cube. Don't do that. You listened to us once before. Listen to me now.
That's right.
Don't do that. Okay. Um, thank you. That's all I'm going to say.
Hear me now or forget me later.
Exactly. Get back to the silly car that looks like a silver box.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just I don't think we need that. I don't think
Yeah.
they were trying to make a big statement with it, and we've seen a bunch of them. We saw the Element, we saw the Cube. Don't
Yeah, and the car that was probably from a vibe standpoint the most like the Cube is the Kia Soul.
Hmm.
Rip.
right.
Yep.
Yeah.
I
17 years. 70.
yeah,
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
Yeah.
poor
But
hamsters have to walk now.
I
Jeez.
know. But here was the thing about the Soul was it had an excellent price point and it
Mhm.
was a really good car.
It's a good car.
So the styling was polarizing, but it wasn't anything that made me go, "Oh God, my eyes." It was never that. And I've known people who have owned them and loved them
Hmm.
because they were small, but there was incredible utility involved there.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
didn't bankrupt them,
Hmm.
and it was put together pretty well.
Hmm.
So all those things. That leads me to one thing I will say about Nissan. I have a good friend who is a hardcore devoted Nissan buyer who walked away from them recently. He leased a recent model Rogue and had nothing but problems with it. And it was his second Nissan in a row that was nothing but problems.
Mm.
And that's hard to hear,
Yeah.
especially from a Japanese make. They should be more all over. So get the
They,
quality control
Well,
back.
those are built in Tennessee now.
Oh,
yeah.
well.
Yeah.
The Rogues
Are
are
they?
built in Tennessee. Yeah.
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 Well,
So
it's still carrying
those
the Japanese brand, and to that end, people are going to expect that level of
Yeah.
craftsmanship. I mean,
Hmm.
the latest Rogue he had leaked. It leaked.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know of a new car that leaks anymore when it's new.
Hmm.
So that's bad. So Nissan, get your guys over from Japan, get it back on track. So don't make it Gung Ho Part Two, the movie.
And
Nobody
There's an old
remembers that
reference.
movie.
no,
Nobody remembers that movie, Glenn.
What's that?
Nobody remembers that movie.
Nobody, no. I remember it just because I was so completely annoyed at how wrong the politics were on that film.
yeah.
So,
Hmm.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, the
Um,
whole, no, I won't go into it. But anyways,
uh, I think one of their problems has been their CVTs. For
yes. Oh
years, they
God.
kind of
Oh,
just
Yes.
yes.
let those
Yes.
CVTs stack up on warranty claims until they weren't warranty claims anymore.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And I think that they had to do that. We're going to take a little break here, and I'm going to go over some of their. I found interesting what their corporate look at all of this is. So we'll be back in a
Hmm.
minute. We're back. One of the interesting things I found about um, the Renaissance at Nissan, as it were, that they are looking at their global picture, which obviously they should. Um, they're going to go from currently 56 models, and they're going to shrink that down to 45. Um, they're going to look at 4 product families, 3 of which uh, will make up 80% of the company's volume.
Hmm.
So those 4 segments are the heartbeat, and that is uh, vehicles that people have like an affinity for, like there's a connection, an immediate connection to. Uh, the Leaf, the Z, the Patrol, which is sold here as the Armada,
Armada.
right?
Mm.
Um, carry emotions and heritage while advancing innovation. Um, that's their corporate speak. The core ones are the X Trail, the Rogue, which I'd love to see an X Trail come here. I think they're kind of cool looking.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
the Note, the Sylphy, the Qashqai. I think I got that right. That the
The Qashqai, right?
Qashqai, yes.
Which
Okay.
was sold here for a minute as the Rogue Sport. It no longer is.
Oh, okay. I was following a road sport today, and I was like,
Mhm.
I never remembered where that kind of how that fell
Mhm.
in the build.
Right.
So these are ones that sustain the business
Mhm.
while delivering scale and loyalty in the most popular segments. And I would put, um, they don't list it here, but I'd put the Sentra and the Altima in that kind of
I think the Altum is going away. I thought I
maybe.
remembered hearing that, but the Sentra, you're right. The Sentra belongs in that column.
Yeah. And the kicks, because I think
Sure.
they sell a ton of
Yeah,
kicks.
yeah, yeah. That's a good. That's. I think that's their. That and the Versa are their least expensive vehicles here. So
Yeah.
yeah, those are the volume leaders.
Yeah.
I think
Um,
the Versa is also going away in the United States, from what I
That's right.
understand.
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, for growth, models like the El Grande and Sakura, targeted expansion, responding to emerging demand, and that seems to be like emerging markets and parts of the world where there's not a lot of already established other brands.
The El
Um,
Grande is a van, I think.
mhm.
Okay.
And then the last part of this product uh, taxonomy, I suppose, is the partner, which is anything that they build with somebody else. The Micra, the Frontier Pro, the
Mhm.
NX8, and allowing them to leverage, some, economies of scale. Look at all the buzzwords I know. But anything that allows them to, you know, have a partner in something so they don't have to take all the development costs. And I would suggest that Mitsubishi is part of that as
And they
well.
are, yeah, and they are especially good at small pickup trucks.
Hmm.
And build small pickup trucks for a number of companies, or have certainly.
Hmm.
Um, so I think that's a real that makes a lot of sense in terms of where their synergy lines up.
Um, bringing out new models, Skyline, GTR, same,
Mhm.
similar. Xterra, we talked about that. X Trail and Rogue, and the Juke EV in Europe, and we talked about all those. For Infinity, uh, uh, I'll read it what here was. Infinity will remain important within Nissan's product strategy. The brand will be revitalized through new and refreshed models, beginning with the 2027 QX65 SUV this spring, and will be followed by 4 additional models, a new midsize hybrid SUV, which I think is their version of the Xterra, I think.
Okay.
Um, no, that's something forgive me. Uh, Performance V6 sedan, the Q50, which is the Skyline Z
Yes.
equivalent,
Mhm.
and 2 frame-based hybrid SUVs. One of those, I think, is the Xterra, so a
Yeah.
version of that. Um, and I took a look at the sales. Uh, so their goal uh, for 2030 is to sell 1 million cars in the U.S.,
Oh,
which is not that far off what they sold last year, 926,000. So, I mean, that's certainly achievable.
yeah.
Um, uh, that is not that's literally about a little bit less than half of what um, Toyota did for the whole year. Um, I'm sorry, Toyota alone did 2.1 million vehicles. Lexus had 370,000 vehicles for a grand total 2.5 million in the US. Uh, Honda did 1.4 million. Acura did 133,000, and Mazda did 410,000
Hmm.
last year.
Hmm.
So, um, so they're still, a solid second place, but Toyota just walks away with so much of that market on
Yeah.
so many levels. Um, but I think it seems like a good plan. It seems thought out. It seems to play to their strengths.
Mhm.
It doesn't bet the farm on you know EVs when that's such a volatile
Yeah.
thing. It
Yeah.
it plays more towards hybrids. Um,
Hmm.
I think with the Xterra, it sounds like they're doing it a V6 and a hybrid power plant, which will take all those buyers who don't want the hybrid in the Forerunner.
Right.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
uh, and so it all this stuff kind of looks in big picture to make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think so. I think, and it's the sort of, I mean, considering that a year ago at this time, or a little more than a year ago, maybe you'll have to refresh my memory, we were having the whole conversation about the potential tie-up with Nissan and Honda, which then fell apart
Right.
completely. And this, that may have been the wake-up call Nissan needed to like figure out, okay, if we're not going to tie up with some other company, then let's figure out how to turn this around on our own.
And Honda wrote off just recently all that EV development.
Hmm.
They took a huge hit on that.
Yeah.
So in some might say that situation has turned. I
Hmm.
don't necessarily believe it. I think they did lose a lot of money on that, but I think Honda has a better idea of their whole product
Hmm.
lineup, with the exception of Acura to some
Yeah.
degree.
It's Honda's back is not against the wall to the
Hmm.
extent that Nissan's has been for the
Hmm.
last few years.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. But and like we said, I mean, they certainly listen to us. They're leaning into performance for Infinity.
Hmm.
They are, they're doing something with the Z car,
Mhm.
and widening out. I think instead of spending a whole bunch of money on these boutique platforms that don't really bring them anything,
Mhm.
I think that they're figuring out a way to kind of maximize the use of all of these across the lines. So we'll see. They don't have a minivan though, do they? The late, the late lamented Quest.
Yeah.
They
Not.
don't have a minivan, and I don't know that 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 I think of that as being a hole in their lineup. I
No,
mean,
No.
GM and Ford don't have minivans either.
true.
Um, and the companies that are selling them now are, better to let them sort of fight over the 5% of market share that hasn't made a decision about which one they want to buy.
Right. And I think that they're all very they kind of exist in the same uh mindsets, mental space,
Hmm.
that they are kind of very interchangeable,
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
know. And there's also a case to be made that many SUV drivers would be better off with a minivan.
Correct.
Mhm.
Most of them would be.
Yep.
Yes.
Right, right, right.
Yep. For sure.
Um,
I
Go
think it's
ahead.
wonderful that they have this plan. It's great that they do instead of they don't. They as an organization they need to just they need to watch themselves. They need to take care. And I'm going to give you a great example. I used a very, 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 very popular search engine, who shall go nameless, but it's the search engine that everybody uses. And I put in Infinity. The first thing that comes up is volvocars.usa or .us. It's the
Well, yeah,
first
they bought
line, the
they,
first thing is
right, right,
Volvo.
because they
Now,
sponsored it. They bought the sponsorship,
right,
which
right.
is very smart on their part.
Yes.
Extremely smart on their
Yes.
part, and really bad that Nissan's not picking up on that. So that's the stuff that, Nissan, if you're listening, get the website thing fixed. With Infinity, but just watch those ends, tie them off,
Yeah, because we don't want to have to go through a Volvo click when we're on Netscape Navigator trying to find our Infinity dealer.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
Because I assume that's the browser you're talking about, Glenn. It's the one everyone uses.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Those folks at Alta Vista need those
Yes.
ad
Yes.
dollars.
Exactly.
Bing.
Exactly. It was a big
Bing.
search engine and it wasn't Bing. So
All right, we are we
Tray tables up, seat
yes.
backs,
Yes.
seat backs up.
The temperature in Hartford is a beautiful 62 degrees. All right, we're gonna call it for tonight. Land the plane, dock the boat. Remember, you can watch us on YouTube. Bunch of great old episodes. And we will see you next time.